The 5th episode of House of the Dragon has been released, and with the latest set of events unfolding, Kit Harington has given us his thoughts on the GOT spin-off. He had some pretty interesting things to say about the new show, including what he thinks is wrong with it. Keep watching this video to find out what the man known as Jon Snow feels about the House of the Dragon. What does Jon Snow think about the House of the Dragon? Many characters made Game of Thrones such a big hit with the fans, and Jon Snow is definitely one of them. Played by Kit Harington, Snow was the one who did his best to convince as many as he could to stay prepared for the invasion of the Night King, hence setting up a final showdown at the end. Now, with House of the Dragon making almost as much noise as the original GOT, Harington has given his 2 cents on the show. Guess what? He says he actually enjoys watching it. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Harington also stated that he's close pals with the showrunner. Harington said, and I quote, "I'm really enjoying it. My friend Miguel showruns it, so I'm really enjoying it. It's a weird one to start a whole new show in the same kind of realm and to make it its own thing," he added, and I think that they've really done that. He also went on to say that it feels weird given the premise, and even though he claims he digs the show, he also went on to say that HOTD isn't pulling it off the way he had expected. What does Harington not like about House of the Dragon? When asked if House of the Dragon was a bad show, he said not by any means. However, he couldn't help but mention that the show lacks gravity, depth, and interesting characters. These elements are among the things that made Game of Thrones such an awesome show, but according to Harington's opinions, House of the Dragon hasn't been able to recreate the same magic. He took a swipe at the characters in House of the Dragon by saying no character on the show is likable. He also said that he found it hard to care about any of their fates. Fans will recall that one of the most interesting elements of Game of Thrones was that their favorite characters had conflicting interests, which made it difficult to choose who they wanted to win. True to his observation, the personalities of the characters in Game of Thrones are formidable when compared to House of the Dragon. I mean, GOT had Cersei Lannister, Littlefinger, the Lannister dwarf, Arya Stark, King Joffrey, the Night King, Daenerys Targaryen, and of course Jon Snow. As for House of the Dragon, they've got, let's leave that for now. Besides the characters, what else does Harington hate about House of the Dragon? In the same interview, Harington further stated that Game of Thrones kept fans at the edge of their seats at all times, but the House of the Dragon doesn't seem to have the same effect. This is because the stakes in the original show were so high, and the plots and story had better depth. As for the House of the Dragon, the stakes are low, the motivations are petty, and that's probably why the characters are also flat. Harington took one more jab at the new show by saying, sometimes it feels like a teen drama. Also, there's the fact that it must remain true to the source material and continue the storyline of the prince that was promised. However, we already know from watching Game of Thrones that this prophecy will be abandoned in favor of Arya Stark's moment. This means it never comes to fruition, and that is a huge bummer by the House of the Dragon. Other related news. Now that we know what Jon Snow thinks about House of the Dragon, let's get into some interesting details about the new show. First, we'll look at the queer problem the show is having, as well as the huge editing mistake made in the 3rd episode. Keep watching the video. Like Game of Thrones, House of Dragons also has a queer problem. To the credit of the writers, the story of the House of the Dragon is beginning to take good shape, but LGBTQ enthusiasts are upset that, just like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon equally lacks quality queer content. As we already know, Rhaenyra has been betrothed to her cousin Laenor. We also know that Laenor is gay, so that's some queer representation, right? Well, to a small extent, yes. However, Laenor's gay lover, Sir Joffrey, was quickly killed off the show in the same episode where he appeared. He was practically beaten to death by Sir Cole, who still went on to stab him severally to make sure he didn't breathe again. So, even as House of the Dragon teased that there would be a gay couple on the show, they somehow made sure that their love story wouldn't last. Characters get killed off shows like this all the time, but the brutal manner of Joffrey's death left a sour taste in the mouth of the gay community. In their defense, the show might shy away from queer content due to the fact that they live in a world of strict heteronormative traditionalism, so there's no chance that 2 noblemen could enjoy a life of peace and prosperity as open lovers. Is there a chance of more queer content on the show? The straightforward answer to this is yes. Well, as long as Laenor is still alive anyway. So far, it's just been him and his lover Joffrey that have represented the gay community on the show. So, as long as Laenor remains alive, then there's every chance he'll find another lover. Speaking of being alive, Vulture's Brian Moylan wrote of the Game of Thrones Season 6 finale in 2016. He wrote, and I quote, "Gay characters on Game of Thrones have met especially bloody and ignominious deaths." Moylan went on to give a few examples. These include the Shadow Monster assassination of Hot King Renly and head-smashing execution of Oberyn Martell. One thing is for certain though, Laenor's queerness will not disappear overnight, which means there's a lot of room for his characterization to explore. But that's if he isn't killed off ASAP, just like his lover Joffrey. And even if he's killed along the way, it'll be interesting to see how he gets offended. Hopefully for the queer community, his death will have more dignity than that of his lover and every other gay person that has been killed in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. Fans spotted an editing error in House of the Dragon's recent ep, and HBO is racing to remove it. The 3rd episode of House of the Dragon looked good, but there was one small error that the producers failed to take note of, and now fans have brought the error to light. Just in case you missed the episode second of his name, there's a scene where King Viserys handed a scroll over to a messenger. It seems like a simple scene, but sometimes even the simplest things can be the hardest things to do. In that particular scene, which was in full view of the audience, the king had all of his fingers intact. Normally, that should be good news, except for the fact that 2 of his fingers were supposed to be missing. To make matters worse, his fingers were not bare, as they were wrapped in bright material that was clearly intended for the green screen to animate over them. Someone didn't do their job, and HBO isn't happy about this. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the mistake must be corrected post-airing, and the properly edited version will be up soon enough. This error will remind many Game of Thrones fans of a similar editing error where a Starbucks coffee cup was filmed on set, and as you can imagine, the fans had a field day with it. A good advertisement for Starbucks, bad for Game of Thrones. Someone is definitely going to get an earful at the office. No one is perfect. Before the House of the Dragon started airing, showrunner Ryan Condal said that the team was working tirelessly to make sure everything was picture perfect. This is not the first time that Game of Thrones has been accused of making mistakes in its editing. In fact, many fans have pointed out various errors throughout the original series run. Some of these errors are more glaring than others, but they all add up to create a show that is far from perfect. Condal was well aware of the Starbucks coffee cup incident on Game of Thrones, and he made it his mission that there wouldn't be a repeat. But no one is perfect, and mistakes do happen. I, for one, can't be mad at them, especially considering all the props required to film such a show. There's too much detail in there. Everything from the landscape, the castles, the furniture, the hair, the costumes, and so on. I won't be surprised if we see a streetlight in one of the episodes. So, guys, do you agree with Kit Harington's take on House of the Dragon? Do you think it lacks depth and character? Let us know what you think in the comments section. Also, give us a like and share if you enjoyed watching this video. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more interesting videos like this.